This is my chronic disease video number 5 from my Nutrition 300 classes. So, I always start with so. I imagine you're thinking, Professor, I've heard of bad cholesterol. I know that, you don't want to have high bad cholesterol levels. I've never heard of this idea of particle size, and many people haven't. Interestingly, having what we call the A profile, which is the large, or the B profile, the B, some of that is genetic. What we also know is, this is a nutrition class, if you eat a lot of simple sugars, that can switch your profile more towards the small LDL. So the boba and the Starbucks and all the sugary beverages we love, they put your LDL type towards the smaller, badder ones. Isn't that interesting? Second thing, the cholesterol, the drugs that they provide patients to lower their total cholesterol. They're called statins. You see them on TV, Lipitor, Crestor. I think Lipitor has the numbers you're looking for, right? It's a statin drug. That drug also increases the size of your LDL. So not only does the drug shrink the amount of total cholesterol you're making in the liver, which is a good thing, bad cholesterol, it also increases the size of the LDL to make them less likely to be infiltrators, if you will. Interesting. And by the way, statins do one other thing we're going to talk about really quickly. So what are your risk factors? Part of it is just genetics. You can't ever really walk away from that until we can have the means to correctly fix genetics. As you get older, your risk goes up. We know that being overweight, being a smoker. Smoking, by the way, actually causes something called inflammation. It triggers your immune system to become a little more angry, if you will. So that is a risk. Hypertension probably physically hurts your arteries, also causes inflammation in the body, kind of angers your immune system. Diabetes, glucose, attacks the artery walls, attacks arterioles, attacks capillaries, and raises your inflammatory kind of mode of the body. Being overweight apparently also is an inflammatory disease. Having high cholesterol, the bricks, right, that go in the plaques, raises your inflammation. And if white blood cells are in there, I call them the cement. So not only are you increasing the amount of bricks with high bad cholesterol, you're making it more likely that the cement, the white blood cells, are going to show up and make your plaque bigger. And then yes, physical inactivity. That probably has a couple components. It affects your weight. It affects the health of your heart. It may affect the health of your actual arteries that have the disease around your heart. And it may also lower inflammatory levels in the body. Kind of tells your immune system, hey, you're healthy, you're fine. You don't need to be angry all the time. By the way, all of these, or most of these, are influenced by diet. Now, inflammation. This idea that your immune system is involved in the disease process, So can you measure inflammation? There are a number of things that can be measured in the blood. The most common one is called C-reactive protein. It is a very crude, indirect marker of your body's immune alertness. So in patients who are at risk for heart disease, people who have plaques, who may be older, have diabetes, who have hypertension, they may actually go out of their way, your physician, he or she may order a C-reactive protein measurement, routine blood draw. And in it being high is a key that there's inflammation. It may not be high when they measure it. That doesn't mean you don't have inflammation. But if it is high when they measure it, you probably do have inflammation, assuming that you don't have the flu or the cold. So it's not just an LDL issue. It's also the white blood cells getting involved, the inflammation, and a lot of the things we do and eat are inflammatory. Now this is great. This is from a old publication, I think in 2004, and I'm going to explain this really quickly. If you are looking at C-reactive protein, this is a measure of inflammation. So white would be low inflammation, medium inflammation, and you actually have inflammation in the body. Okay, so that's those colors. And then you group people by their cholesterol. So this group does not have high cholesterol, these three groups. These three groups have mediumly high cholesterol, and these three groups on the right, they have high cholesterol. So that alone is a risk factor. If you compare high inflammation right? So there's a lot of immune alertness, but they don't have high LDL. They have low LDL. Their LDL is okay. So this is a group that just has high inflammation. This group does not have high inflammation, but they have high LDL. These little asterisks mean something. Those risks are equal. So if you just go around measuring LDL in people and their LDL's fine, that doesn't mean they're not at risk for heart disease until you measure inflammation. What's not good, though, is if your cholesterol is high, these three groups, and your inflammation is high. That's a double whammy. And that gets a little outside the scope of the class. I'm just trying to emphasize to you that treating your body with respect and not just worrying about your LDL, but things that cause inflammation, smoking, being overweight, not managing your blood sugar, pollution, stress, lack of sleep, all of those have been identified to raise inflammation. Those are independent risks for heart disease that have nothing to do with LDL. And how are we doing? How many slides do we have left? I think I am going to finish this on a long video. So what raises the bricks? Saturated fat raises your bricks, so the solids. Hydrogenated fats raise your bad, lower your good, really bad. The ones that we know are essential, the omega-6s, the omega-3s, those tend to lower your bad cholesterol, right? By the way, omega-3s in some people may raise your good cholesterol, but it's not everybody. It's person by person. Being very physically active can also raise your good cholesterol, but not in every person. And then finally, what's protective? This is a nutrition class. So we know that eating soluble fiber, the oatmeal, the oats, the beans, chickpeas, the soluble fiber lowers your bad cholesterol. Not a lot, but a little. Omega-3s may raise your good cholesterol. Okay. They are definitely anti-clotting. They actually act as blood thinners. You're not even supposed to take omega-3 supplements before a surgery because they worry about you bleeding too much. And by the way, if heart attacks are blood clots, then having a blood that's less likely to clot could mean you have a plaque, a little baby plaque that bursts in your heart. But if you don't have a blood clot, do you really have a heart attack? Think about that. And omega-3s may be anti-inflammatory. And then we know that antioxidants, it kind of depends on the food source. Things like wine and grapes and cocoa and black tea, they are without question anti-clotting agents. I've measured them in adults, human beings. For about 2 to 4 hours, you get an anti-clotting effect. Not as strong as aspirin, a baby aspirin, but again, it's all about, these little things we do to help prevent disease. They may be anti-inflammatory. Maybe they protect the artery cell, the walls that line your artery. I don't know. By the way, if you look at fish consumption, those who consume the most fish, historically, in some groups, have had the lowest rates of heart disease. Does that still apply today? I don't know. I'm going to bet that these groups, the Japanese and the French, those are the elderly French and Japanese who had a lot of other things in their diet that didn't exist that we all have to worry about now, and the levels of pollution that we're exposed to, and the other things in our food that may be inflammatory. So anyways, that's the last video. That's it on heart disease and diabetes. I have some other videos for you to watch in Canvas. If you have more questions about this at all, Zoom, email, let's do it.